All right, guys, welcome back to Everything College Football Podcast. Today, me and Nick are doing a Week 5 contest between the Oregon Ducks and the Penn State Nittany Lions. Major top 10 showdown going down in College Park. 3.5-point spread in favor of the home team. 52.5 the total, 7 p.m. Eastern Time on NBC. Getting things started with this Oregon offense against the Nittany Lions defense. Neither of these teams have really played a real opponent this year, so it's certainly hard to gauge how much success both of them are having on their respective sides of the ball. But we're going to find out on Saturday, right? We're going to make our best assumption. When you look at Oregon, Dante Moore making his first career road start, is going to be, well, I guess he started at Northwestern, right? But his first legitimate road start in a real stadium, since they don't play in a real stadium, is going to be here against a feisty Penn State team at night. 962 yards, 11 touchdowns, and a pick for Dante Moore. He's been highly accurate. And he's also been spreading the wealth a good bit. Coming into the season, this is a team that had a lot of uncertainty at wide receiver. Malik Benson, a veteran, came over. He's a guy who's not really been that great in his career, so I wasn't sure how much that would work out. So far, it's panning out very well. Gary Bryant Jr., 3 touchdowns. That one's also panning out. So they're also, they're getting some nice production out of some of these unsung heroes. Kenyon Sadiq, an athletic tight end, 155 yards and 3 scores. And, of course, the freshman Decorian Moore, 207 and 2 touchdowns. This is a passing attack that has tremendous upside, but now that we're going to start facing legit opponents, including a Penn State secondary that's led by standout corner A.J. Harris. Darius Dixon's been getting involved a lot. O'Davian Collins as well. Elliott Washington, I think you'll see him get a pretty long leash as a potential starting corner in this game. It's a nice duo, right? It's a respectable secondary that also, Nick, a lot of people are forgetting to have a new defensive coordinator in Jim Knowles who can coach the hell out of a secondary. And last time he played Oregon, he put their passing attack on complete ice. And, of course, it's completely different in terms of personnel, so I'm not expecting them to have a dominant performance by any means. But this guy knows how to coach, Nick, and he's facing basically a freshman quarterback in his first real road start, and their top pass catcher is also a true freshman. This just does not seem to be setting up very well for offensive success for the Ducks.
Making a road start in Happy Valley in general is a very tough ask. A whiteout game being your first true, real tough road start. I don't want to pick on Northwestern like Dalton did. I think, I respect their fan base certainly, but comparing those two places, it's not really what we're comparing, right? This is a whiteout situation down at Penn State that is one of the toughest environments in all of college football and all of sports, quite frankly, and this is a tough spot to be. I think, Dante Moore has proven to me so far that he's an incredible quarterback. Oregon has been boat racing teams so far, and a lot of that is because the offense is just firing all cylinders, and they seem to be clicking early on. 50.8 points per game, over 200 points in these 4 games so far. They absolutely killed Oklahoma State, put them on their deathbed. They smoked Montana State, a very good FCS team. Yeah, they looked a little sluggish against Northwestern and Oregon State the last 2 weeks, but I still think this offense is playing so high and so strong. 6.72 yards per attempt on the ground, 14 touchdowns rushing, 11 passing touchdowns, 1 pick, and about 1,000 yards across the board. More. He's really been the only guy throwing passes, 95 attempts for him, 75% comp rate, 962 yards. He's just been really good. There's a lot to say positive about him. He looks really confident in the pocket. He's really comfortable. His footwork looks good. His accuracy has obviously been really solid. I think the footwork in a young quarterback is something I always look for. That's one of my key things when evaluating talent, and his footwork has been really good. I think that's a big step in the right direction for a guy like Moore, who you wondered what he looked like considering he was a highly rated prospect, but he transferred, had all the off-the-field drama. Oregon had been used to plugging and playing guys that were veterans of the sport like Bo Nix, and their quarterback last year, that was another guy that they were able to plug in Dylan Gabriel, who was a guy that you were just able to plug in and get someone who was an experienced starter. They rolled the dice a little bit here with a younger quarterback, and it's paying off so far, but how will it pay off in a tough road environment like down in College Station and Happy Valley, or not College Station, sorry, State College, Pennsylvania. When I look at Decarian Moore, I think he's a great wide receiver. Over 200 yards, 17.3 yards per grab, 2 scores for him. I've been really happy with his production so far. I look at Malik Benson. He's been phenomenal. 200 yards receiving, 2 scores. Sadiq, the tight end, he's been getting involved in the red zone. He has 3 grabs, 3 touchdowns, that is, on 9 grabs. Gary Bryant's been solid. Jeremiah McClellan has been solid as well. They have, a little bit of lacking depth at time. Moore, Benson, and Bryant each have over 10 grabs, so those are the guys they clearly target. When you look at this Penn State defense, they've been good so far. 5.7 points per game against a bunch of bad teams. They've been playing a lot of bad teams, so it's really hard to get a read. 2.85 yards per attempt on the ground, 3.59 yards per play. But I think the coaching has been really evident that it's really solid with their new defensive coordinator they brought over from the defending national champions in Jim Knowles. I like what King Mack's been able to do in the secondary. 13 total tackles for him. He's been really solid. Dejon Lane has been solid. 9 total total tackles for him, 2 TFLs, 1 sack. He has looked pretty confident. Colin Dinkins has been solid as well. They have a bunch of different pieces. Darius Dixon has been good as well as a true corner that's been solid. Same thing with Collins, 9 total tackles for him. I think Oregon has a slight matchup advantage here. I think they have looked really good. But this is an opportunity for Knowles to really scheme something, put together a strong secondary showing that could have a good day here. At home, this could be a potential advantage if things go their way. But right now, I'm leaning towards this Ducks passing attack, having the nod over this secondary for Penn State. And this is a very strong Ducks passing attack that really is growing and developing every single week.
Now you look at the rushing attack, it's been unreal this year, and they've really been just utilizing the entire roster at running back. 7 different guys have been getting touches. The 5th leading rusher, Jordan Davidson, has 6 touchdowns. He's probably not going to play as much in conference play. I think that's really going to be up to Noah Whittington if he's back from injury. Mekhi Hughes and Jaden Lamar are going to be the top running backs for a group putting up 255 yards per game on the ground. I do want to talk about these offensive tackles because Isaiah World, Alex Harkey, are 2 guys who came over from Nevada and Texas State respectively. And this is also a big-time test for them that they probably were not accustomed to certainly seeing on a weekly basis, and you're going to be doing it against a Penn State defensive line. It's not as deep as it was last year, and I think they can certainly be susceptible a little bit to the run, but Deni Dennis Sutton and Zane Durant are 2 of the best in the conference, if not the entire country. It's going to allow guys like Alonzo Ford, Xavier Gillum, Chaz Coleman, Azariah Fisher, and the Ty Blanding, guys like that to get involved for this defensive line. So I'm concerned about how these tackles do, Nick. I think that they're exceptional players, and they've started off the year very well, but I think a lot of people weren't as excited with these tackle additions as maybe some other people, and I think this is a game where they could be inconsistent. I think the interior is pretty stout, led by Emmanuel Pregnon at left guard. I don't know how good the offensive line is going to do in this game. I think when it comes to slowing down the run, Penn State will do respectable, especially with the linebackers they have. And then I also think that the pass rush could potentially cook in this one as well. I think a guy like Amari Campbell, who came over from UNC, who's been getting the most reps of anybody at linebacker. He's a very versatile, athletic guy they might look to use in a variety of different roles in this one. And then Tony Rojas is great in coverage. He's great against the run as well. So I think for Oregon, there's so many negative things working against them here, including those offensive tackles as well, potentially. What do you make of that matchup?
This is a very intriguing matchup. It's similar to talking about Alabama, where they have a really good stout interior offensive line, but not a great situation at the tackle position. I think Oregon's situation is slightly better. I think World and Harkey are progressing slightly better than Proctor and Wilkin Formby for Alabama. I think Harkey is developing solid. I think World will eventually develop. Obviously, World being helped by Pregon on that left side. I think that's certainly a matchup to wonder is, this is not the same pass rush for Penn State last year. Obviously, they graduated a lot of guys who ended up going to the NFL, but Danny Dennis Sutton is still there, and he's been phenomenal. 9 total tackles for him, 5 TFL, 2 sacks. He's a complete home wrecker. Tony Rojas, the linebacker, has been really good at getting in the backfield as well. 18 total tackles, 5 TFLs, 2 sacks for him. I think he's a guy that's been really good for this team. Who else will step up the defensive line? I think it's a big question mark for Penn State. Can they get more out of some of their guys? Xavier Gillum, maybe he'll find a way to have a strong day. 5 total tackles, 2 TFLs for him. He's got to look good in this situation. Alonzo Ford, same deal, 3 total tackles, an interception for him. He's got to be strong on this defensive line and have a good day here. The rushing attack for this Oregon team has just been absolute dynamite. 6.72 yards per attempt on the ground. It has really helped them out. They have just so many different guys there. Whittington, Lemire, Hill, all over 150 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns for each of them. Jordan Davidson has been a really big target in the red zone on the ground. 6 total touchdowns for him, 75 yards rushing. So they've spread the wealth out. They have a bunch of different guys with touches. I mean, when you look at the list there, they have, 7 different guys, or 8 guys, beg your pardon, with over 12 attempts on the ground. So they're able to get a ton of different production, a ton of different pieces they're running in and out here. I think Whittington will eventually be the top back. Can they find a way to have success on the ground in a hostile environment? That will certainly help out your offense if you don't force more into obvious passing situations all the time and really release the pressure from him on the ground. That's how Oregon wins this game. If they have a reliable rushing attack that's good on the ground, they absolutely win this game. If they struggle a bit rushing the ball, they have to throw the ball more. I think that's how Penn State wins this game.
Of course, I can't go without mentioning Zakee Wheatley, one of the top safeties in the country. He's a big-time difference maker against the run, does work in coverage, efficient tackler. I mean, he does a little bit of everything, so you're going to hear his name called a lot on Saturday. Moving to the other side of things, the Penn State offense on that Oregon defense. And again, nobody's really played anything, so you can look at the numbers. They're skewed, of course. But for this passing attack, they've not really been airing it out a whole lot. I think they're certainly holding a lot to be, called when it comes to getting this passing attack going. In between 200, 217 yards for Drew Aller. And this is a new and improved passing game. They went to the portal and got some very respectable weapons. Trebor Pena out of the slot. Kyron Hudson, a strong-armed outside X and Z pass catcher. Devontae Ross, more of a speedster downfield. Then you have Luke Reynolds at tight end, who's supposed to be the next great at Penn State. I mean, this is tight end U right now, and he's going to be next up as the next 5-star. So they have a nice 4-man tandem. Drew Aller, it's time for him to step up in these big-time games. Last year, how did it end in Indianapolis when they had a chance to win the game? He ended up throwing an interception, on a barely underthrown ball down the sideline in what was a high-scoring affair where the rushing attack for Penn State surprisingly teed off on this Oregon defense. They ran for 290-plus yards in that game, Nick. This was pretty impressive, 8.3 yards per attempt. Katron Allen, Nick Singleton, clearly the best running back duo in the country. These are veterans. They're looking for a marquee victory. They've been good this year, not great, but I think they've also been waiting to get unleashed. And here we are, conference opener. It's time to get the job going, the job done. And I think you're going to look to find that optimal balance from Penn State. You're going up against a Oregon defense who has plenty of bodies on the defensive line, but I think most importantly, their pass rush led by Mateo Uyunglele and Tatum Teoti are going to be the standouts. I think the Penn State, they did a lot better than I think a lot of people anticipated in the Big Ten title game last year on offense, Nick. And if they can just be a little bit more consistent, have some better play calling, and Aller can protect the football more often, they're going to have a pretty good shot of scorching this defense.
Dare I say Drew Aller's not been good this year. I think Aller's really struggled at times and not playing to the level of a potential, top first-round draft pick or a Heisman contender. I've just not been impressed with him. I need to see more out of him. I think he's just been disappointing. Below 65% comp rate, 626 yards, 4 touchdowns to 1 interception. I know they played some bad teams, but he just has not looked good. I think he's looked weak and a little unconfident so far and really lacking that sort of key confidence here. Playing a good Oregon defense. Obviously, playing at home helps him. This is certainly good. If this was a road matchup, I would be saying that he's a complete issue potentially and a massive liability, but at home I think he's a quarterback that can really stand up and be a good enough leader in the pocket and really step up and be solid. Jabor Pena, the transfer from Syracuse, has been really good, 166 yards for him and a touchdown. He's been solid. Keon Ware-Hudson has stepped up and he's been good for this team, 156. Luke Reynolds has been pretty good at tight end, while Devontae Ross has 5 grabs for 75 yards. The thing that worries me though is they only have 3 pass catches with more than 10 grabs this season. Reynolds, Ware-Hudson, and Pena. They don't really seem to have a lot of guys they can spread the wealth to. They're really struggling to find that sort of depth in this passing attack, which continues to be a main issue for Penn State, is that they just lack the depth in the passing attack to be a top team in the nation, in my opinion. 44 points per game so far this season. 731 yards of total passing offense, 5 touchdowns on the year. Penn State, if they're going to win this game, it's going to be because they're going to dominate on the ground with their 2 incredible backs. Ketron Allen, 275 yards, 8 yards per attempt, and 3 scores for him. He's been really good. Singleton has been the red zone back, 180 yards for him, and 5 scores. If they're going to win this game, they're going to have to just run, and try and attack this defensive line for Oregon. That is a really good unit that has some solid pieces, but that's the key to success here, is try to find success on the ground. I just don't know if I trust their signal caller to will them to victory and carry them in a game here, which is why I think they could face some struggles in this one. I look at the defensive line for this Oregon team. There are some solid pieces here. They have some good pieces. Uyunglele has been really good for this team. I think he's been a good leader. 7 total tackles for him, 3 sacks, 2 pass breakups. He has put some solid production on the board. Same thing with Washington, 8 total tackles for him, 2 TFLs. I think he's been a really good player that they can rely on and get a lot out of. Same thing with Gray there, 6 total tackles and a TFL for him. I think he's been pretty good. Can this run defense really stand up strong here and put Penn State into obvious passing situations? If that happens, that may be a big key to success for this Oregon defense.
Middle of the defense led by Bryce Bocher, a nice physical specimen at linebacker. Devon Jackson's next to him. I'm not as confident in his services, and I think that's a guy that could potentially be exposed in this game. Jerry Mixon having a good start to the year, but also kind of a younger cat, has not been on the field a whole lot. So I think the linebackers could potentially get caught out of sync, but I think Bocher is such a leader, they'll be all right in that regard. The thing is, this secondary is incredibly young, and all these guys are like X5 stars, so I think it's all right. Brandon Finney Jr. is having a great start to the year in coverage. Ife Abadegbu, he's having a solid year as well. Naeem Offord, he's getting on the field as a true freshman. Sayoni Lialia, it's a group that is just not made up of a lot of names a lot of people probably heard of before, Nick. Jaden Cannady, of course, coming over in the portal, in the slot. He's a mainstay there. He's a phenomenal playmaker. I think he's going to do well against the run and in coverage. And then Dylan Feineman, this guy is a ball hawk. He's a hard hitter at safety. Can't wait to see how he starts to do as we creep into conference play. Then Aaron Flowers and Peyton Woodyard. These guys have also both been pretty solid. And Kingston Lopa gets on the field as well. I love the safety group for Oregon. The cornerback room, Nick, not as much. And here on the road in a tough environment, I think this could certainly potentially play into their hands. But like you said, it's going to be on Aller to put it on his receivers and trying to take advantage of these clear matchups.
Yeah, it's going to be on him to try and win that battle. I like what they have at linebacker. Bocher, I think, is a phenomenal player. 27 total tackles at TFL for him. A pick. He's been really good. Tutialoa has been solid as well. 18 total tackles, 5 TFLs, 1.5 sacks. Dylan Thieneman coming over from Purdue. He's been really strong for this team. 16 total tackles, a pass breakup. Quietly strong, obviously not been super noticeable so far at free safety, but I think he's a player that is continuing to develop and get confident there. I wonder if the secondary, certainly the corners there, can they really stand up and win this battle? I don't think they're facing the toughest thing in the world, but when you have a guy, the true freshman, and Brandon Finney, who has 6 total tackles and a pass breakup, anytime you have a true freshman in this situation, I think it's certainly concerning. Theron Johnson, that is, he has been okay for this team as well, but nothing too crazy. Overall, I think it's a bit of a weaker secondary here. I think that Drew Aller is just not the greatest passer in the world at times. I think he's not really shown me that he's really progressed in any way. I don't think he's really developed and grown as a passer, so I don't think the secondary will be in too much trouble here if they can find a way to contain the run and force Penn State into obvious passing situations.
Before we move on to the final thoughts, I do want to talk about the O-line for Penn State, because I think this is one of the better groups in the country. They've done a great job of developing over the last couple of years. Ola Iona at left guard is phenomenal. Nick Dawkins at center as well. Anthony Doka at right guard. They're putting him in that position. He's done very well. At right tackle, Nolan Rucci. And then at left tackle, Drew Shelton. This is a legit unit, Nick. I think it's a very good one. It's a veteran group across the board. And again, the progression for them has been phenomenal. And I think putting Donka at right guard compared to him playing a lot of right tackle last year has only improved this unit's stature. I'm very intrigued to see how they do, and this is an underrated part of Penn State's team that no one's talking about, and I think could really be a tone setter and a difference maker, especially in these tougher games against big-time opponents.
Yeah, this is a great offensive line. They really have a good unit here. Shelton has been really strong at left tackle. Donka has been really good at right guard. I totally agree with the move for him to guard from tackle was a big difference maker for this offense. Nick Dawkins has been a phenomenal player at center. If they give him time and they protect their quarterback, I think that will certainly help out. But for me, it's how they look in run block. If they're really good in run block, that will set the tone early. And again, I keep seeing it, but the key to success for Penn State is run the ball and have success early on first down. Put yourselves into short yardage situation on second and third down if you want to win this game.
Now we move to the final analysis and the prediction for James Franklin. It's time. We got to win a big game at some point, right? And if we lose to this Oregon team, I think it's kind of an embarrassment, kind of like all the other ones are, right? But again, we're seeing a quarterback making his first real road start. His top receiver's a true freshman. He's breaking in a lot of new pieces across the board. The secondary's brand new as well. You're all veterans on offense, from the O-line to the quarterback to the running backs to even the transfers I got in the portal. These guys have all been around a long time. We got to make something happen, right? We cannot lose this game, and that's probably why they're going to lose it, right? And Nick, he has no faith in Franklin. I don't really blame him for it. I just think this is a game where they should win. I think Jim Knowles is a guy that you can point to in critical situations to dial up the right calls and out-scheme Dan Lanning and his offense. I think that what they did last year running the football is certainly very impressive, and I think they're going to get back to doing that. They're going to have some balance. I think Aller is going to play much better than he has all year long behind some solid protection, and I think Oregon, they're going to struggle more on the offensive side of the ball as the run game's not going to be as dominant, and I think they're going to have some trouble pushing the ball downfield against the secondary that's going to be in sync. So I'm taking Penn State, Nick. Everything I just said might end up being wrong at the end of the day because it usually is, but they got to win this game, dude. I think over 52.5 is going to be the best bet. I think you could also see a lot of sloppy offense as well, but I think at the end of the day, they're going to clear that total with ease, and Penn State is going to be victorious because they have to. And if they lose like you're thinking, Nick, boy, there's going to be a lot of trouble coming Franklin's way.
They got to win this game, and yet I just don't think they're going to be able to. You say it's time for Franklin to get the job done, but really, quite frankly, I think it's time for another disappointing home loss that puts the fan base in an absolute tizzy. I mean, it's just tough to pick Penn State in these situations. I'm a big believer in trends. I'm a big believer in that trends really do set the tone, and obviously all trends eventually break. You see that happen, but I'm a big believer in that these trends mean something, and when's the last time Penn State won a big game at home? They beat Michigan in 2019, and not a very good Michigan team. They beat Ohio State in 2016. They blew it the year after that. They've been boat raced by them at home the last few times. I mean, come on, they haven't beat a marquee opponent, like a top tier opponent at home in almost 10 years, 7-8 years. It's been disappointing. They just keep losing the big games. I don't think James Franklin's a big game coach. I don't think he has enough to get the job done here, and I just don't know if I trust their quarterback. Drew Aller's just not been good enough, right? Simply put, he's not been good enough. If he's going to be a top 10 pick or a first round pick in the next NFL draft, he's got to elevate. He's got to be the leader. He's got to be the guy that pushes this team forward. I will not be convinced on Penn State until I see him go out there and have an absolute dominant performance. He cannot be sheepish. He cannot be inconfident in the pocket. He has to be accurate early and hitting his receivers. They have a better receiving core this year. He's got the best group of weapons I think that he's had in his time at Penn State. He's got to step up and be strong. I think Penn State's got to help him out by putting himself into situations where it's not obvious they're going to be passing. Don't put them into second and long, third and long, because if you do that, this game will be over before it even starts here. I think this Oregon team is legit. I think Dante Moore is legit. I think he's really shown himself to be a dominant quarterback. I think the defense maybe is a bit questionable at times for Oregon. I think some of the pieces in the secondary could potentially be exposed, but they have passed the test so far. Obviously, this is a tougher test on the road. At Penn State, a whiteout is always going to be tough no matter what you chalk it up, right? It's going to be tough for any team here, and I think Dante Moore will certainly have a rough first quarter, but he'll get into his groove. He'll be confident. He'll eventually find a way to win this game. I'm not buying Penn State stock until they prove me otherwise. I just cannot put my faith behind a team like this team. I just can't see them winning this game right now. I think it'll be close. They'll fight to the death. They'll make it a good contest, but I think Oregon ultimately gets the job done and puts themselves in the driver's seat in the Big Ten.
And now in sports, Nick, I want to get your thoughts on this, is because they can say the past is the past, but when it comes to coaching, what happens in the past lingers with you, and I think that's something you still see Cristobal struggle with, is the past decisions he's made are in his head in the current moment, and that's a big problem with Franklin. Even if they're winning this game and even if they're dominating, but the score is not out of reach, he's going to be potentially overthinking some calls that could backfire on this team. That's always the biggest concern, and that is certainly there. It doesn't matter if it happened last week or 10 years ago. It's always in your head, and that's why you picking them to lose is not far-fetched one bit, even if they might have a lot of advantages, because that is going to stick with you.
I think Lane Kiffin's another coach like that, where they just overthink, they get in their own head, they haven't been able to beat the top guys, they haven't been able to win the top games, so they overmanage it. Maybe they go for it on fourth down in a situation where they could have punted, or they could have taken the points with the field goal. They gamble and put themselves behind the 8 ball. Certainly I could see a situation where it's a close game, and Penn State, 4th and 1, instead of punting, they try to get the fourth down to put the game out of reach, and they end up turning over on downs and putting Oregon in a good field position in a close game. Or maybe they, end of the quarter, they don't go for, or end of the half, they don't go for a field goal and try to get the 7 points, and it fails for them. I could see that certainly unfolding here. I just don't know if I trust James Franklin to go out there and out-coach a guy like Dan Lanning, who is a confident coach, who has won big games in his own right. Yeah, he's lost some big games as well. He's lost to Washington. He's lost in the playoffs. But he seems to be a coach that can better handle his cool, better manage his guys, and get themselves in a better position. And again, until I'm proven wrong, I'm going to pick against Penn State in these situations. I think Oregon win what should absolutely be an instant classic.
So here for today's episode. If you guys like, comment, subscribe. See you next time.